This is Change Your Mindset Podcast, the podcast that helps change your life by helping change the mindset of the 99% into the 1% mindset. Here's your host, Adrian Gomez.
Welcome back to another podcast episode of Change Your Mindset. I'm your host, Adrian Gomez. We all have a first name that's given to us by our parents. We all have a last name that was given to us from generations and generations of past. That doesn't change. Most people nowadays do not care about their last name, nor have respect for it, don't even care about their last name, which is a shame. Wherever you're from, our last name represents who you are and where you come from. Some people respect their last name and love where they come from because they know their family history, whatever their history is from, wherever they came from, they're hard workers, people that are willing to get things done. Your last name represents you. My last name, Gomez, represents me. I love my last name, and I love where I come from. I respect where I come from because I know generations before me were hardworking Gomez's. They built businesses, they worked hard, and they provided for others. That's my last name. That's where I come from, and I have respect for my last name. Most people, a last name is just a last name. Whether your last name means anything or not, you're the only one that can make your last name mean something. You're the only one that can leave a legacy behind. For your last name can mean something to other people, and not just your family. Because everyone in your family knows your last name. Because more than likely, they have the same last name as you. But the thing is, nobody cares about their own last name. No one has pride anymore. No one has respect for it. No one has their last name mean anything anymore. Just think about it like this. If you have a regular job, your last name means absolutely nothing. You're just another employee that works at a company. Does anyone care what your last name is? Probably not. Does anyone have respect for your last name? Probably not. Is anybody going to remember your last name at that company? Probably not. That's the unfortunate truth. Nobody cares about your last name if you work at a business or you were an employee. You're just another number to that company. Your last name, just a last name. They care more about your first name than your last. And I'll just show you how much people don't respect their last name or even care about their last name. During sports, football, basketball, soccer, or outside the other country of the US, football, baseball, hockey, whatever sport, those players have their last names on the back of their jerseys. And what do fans do? They buy jerseys with somebody else's name on the back of the jersey. And once they buy it, they get that jersey and they put it over their back. So at that point, your last name is meaningless because you're putting somebody else's last name over your last name. You're representing somebody else's last name instead of yours. You don't respect your last name. You don't care about your last name. You have no tradition for your last name because you're wearing somebody else's last name. Think about that. Like I said before, sports is a business. They're just selling you a jersey with somebody else's name on it just for your money at the end of the day. You think you're supporting them. You think you're cheering on your team, your favorite player. But at the end of the day, they're just taking your money because at the end of the day, it's just a business. And that business is taking away your last name by providing you with somebody else's name for you to wear. Most people don't think about it like that, but it's the truth. People don't respect their last names. And people that actually love sports and actually want to be a professional athlete, which is very few people that actually can make it, instead of wearing somebody else's last name, why don't you work hard and endlessly, be consistent, be disciplined, and build your own last name? For one day, you can be a professional athlete and you represent your last name, not somebody else's. Like I said, being a professional athlete is very hard. Very few people can get there. But this shows you that the people that are professional athletes, that work tirelessly, worked hard, and worked till they couldn't work anymore, and trained like no other, hats off to them. Because their last name now means something. Because their last name is seen by thousands and millions of people. And now they have respect for their last name. Because they built that by working hard. But the average person, their last name means absolutely nothing. Because they rather watch somebody else's success than create their own success. And create a legacy with their own last name. Instead of carrying somebody else's last name and continuing carrying their last name and making a legacy out of that. Like I said, this is change your mindset. The average person doesn't think like this. The average person is a sheep and watches other people's success instead of being different and building something for themselves, having respect in their own last name and building a legacy with their last name instead of somebody else's. Some people think your last name will go down in history in your family, which is correct, but marriages happen, last names changes. But just think about this. Do you remember or do you even know who your great-grandfather is? How about your great-great-grandfather? Most people have no idea who they are, what they did, if they even accomplished anything, or were they just an average Joe who had a job and just lived a life, a meaningless life. That's the unfortunate truth. Are you going to leave a legacy where years from now, nobody even knows who you were, what you did, what you accomplished? Or are you actually going to build something, have a reputation, leave a last name that actually means something? Because the average person, their last name is just a last name, means nothing to them. Have some pride, have some respect in your last name, and build something with it. I'm going to read off 20 names that these people actually cared about their last name and respected it and built a legacy with their last name. And now, since they worked hard and built something with that last name because they were proud of it, millions of people know that last name. And now their last name will go throughout history. And most people are buying these people's last names. So I'm going to read them off to you. Ford, last name, founded by Henry Ford. Disney, founded by Walt Disney. McDonald's, last name, founded by Richard and Maurice McDonald. Johnson & Johnson, last names, founded by Robert Wood Johnson, James Wood Johnson, and Edward Meade Johnson. Ferrari, last name, founded by Enzo Ferrari. Hilton, founded by Conrad Hilton. Boeing, last name, founded by William Boeing. Gillette, founded by King C. Gillette. Dell, founded by Michael Dell. Porsche, another last name, founded by Ferdinand Porsche. Gucci, founded by Guccio Gucci. Armani, last name, founded by Giorgio Armani. Ben and Jerry's, these ones are first names, founded by Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield. Colgate, last name, founded by William Colgate. Harley Davidson, founded by William S. Harley and Arthur Davidson. Levi's, this one's the first name, founded by Levi Strauss. Heinz, founded by Henry J. Heinz. Chanel, another last name, founded by Coco Chanel. Louis Vuitton, speaks for itself, founded by Louis Vuitton. Burberry, last name, founded by Thomas Burberry. Ralph Lauren, full name, founded by Ralph Lauren. Versace, last name, founded by Gianni Versace. Most people know these names as brands. You think you're buying a brand. You're not. You're buying somebody else's last name, or you're buying their full name, depending on the brand. But most people don't say it like that. People think these brands are just brands, but they're not. They're actually people's names. And these people actually respected and cared and built a legacy on their names. But people don't want to do that. They actually rather buy somebody else's name and wear it on themselves and carry it around. And that's the truth. Most people will never say it like that. But it just shows if you're buying these brands and you care more about these brands, you don't care about your last name. You don't care about your name at all. Because you're buying somebody else's name. And you're proudly wearing it. See, all these go hand in hand. Professional athletes wearing their last names, buying brands, buying somebody else's name. This is the world we live in. Whether you see it or not, this is the truth. But most people don't take a second and think about it. Because we don't think anymore as a society. We just see things that are presented to us on TV, on social media, on the radio, and we just buy it. Without thinking where it came from, if it's somebody's name, why am I buying it? Is this going to benefit my life? We don't think at all. Because we've been a society of consumers. We just buy. Instead of having respect for ourselves, making something of ourselves, being better versions of ourselves, we don't care. That's how society has fallen. That's why everything's so messed up nowadays. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares about their own self-worth. And it just shows why our society is so messed up right now. Because no one's trying to improve. Because they care about their last name. They respect it. They don't. That's why everyone's depressed, has anxiety. Everyone's always sad. No one has motivation. Everyone complains and whines. No one cares. No one has respect for themselves. On improving, putting a last name that's going to mean something. And leaving a legacy behind. But it doesn't matter to people nowadays. People are more focused on buying other people's names than on their own. People rather spend money that they don't have buying the so-called luxury brands, which is actually luxury names, and go into debt buying these names just because they care about their appearance. They care about wearing somebody else's name to show off to other people. To show off to other people that this name they're wearing, that's cost them hundreds of dollars, that's considered luxury brand, that last name means more than their own last name, which is a damn shame. You should always put your last name before anybody else's last name, because that last name represents you, represents who you are, what you've done with your life, and where you've came from. That's what a last name means. So have some respect for it, and actually have some pride in your last name. Because the average person doesn't. The average person is a sheep and wears other people's names instead of caring about their own. Because everybody's now brainwashed, apparently. And they rather consume and buy brands / names instead of focusing on themselves. Just take a second, think about that. Think about how true that is. Most people don't see it like that. And of course, you're not like most people. Because clearly you're listening to a podcast that's going to change your mindset. For you can better yourself, be the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, financially. And you actually have a last name that means something. You actually have pride in that last name. And my hat's off to you. Because you're one of the few people that actually choose to think differently and to think for themselves. You're a different breed from everybody else. Like I said, most people will continue to do the same thing. Most people will continue to buy these players' jerseys with their last name and put it over themselves and not respect their last name. And most people will buy these brands / names over and over. That's just how it's going to go. You can't help everybody. You can't save everybody. Only the few people that actually want to listen and think differently and do something about it. And that's going to be you. So go out there, make a legacy out of your last name. Have people remember who you are and what your last name means. Because most people live a life which is meaningless. I always say you only get one life. Don't waste it. That's going to be it for this podcast episode. As always, I truly appreciate your valuable time to listen to the podcast. Thank you as always. Thank you, Patron member Blade262, for supporting this podcast because it truly does help. As always, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast if you enjoyed it. Thank you guys as always. I wish you the best. I wish you success. And of course, go out there and be the best version of yourself. Thank you again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Change Your Mindset podcast. Be sure to tune in every week for a new episode. As always, change your mindset to change your life.